Yeah, well, the short answer is you, because I was taking your Finance 320, is that intro?
Yeah.
And you were, I think that was the first year you were starting the bonds program.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just said, I think you would be a good fit, you might like it. And so I had no idea what it was. I didn't even know it was, something that was offered to us. So you really sparked that interest in me. And then I went through the process, I did the interviews, the first report, all of that stuff. And, but I mean, I guess the real reason why after getting interested is just, it was the opportunity to actually be part of something that is not your normal classroom. It's not your normal textbook. It's not your normal class. And so for me, it was like getting that hands-on experience, especially as a student that had very little interest before and absolutely no experience with that, realm of finance at all. So that's really what attracted me to it, was just that kind of unique experience that I knew I wasn't going to get in a different classroom or in a club or anything like that. Yeah, it was definitely scary and challenging at first. I'm pretty sure that first boot camp that we did, I was thinking like, maybe they made a mistake. I should not be here. This is not something I'm okay with or capable of. Like you did, I definitely started doubting myself because going into that first boot camp, it was just like you're just thrown in and everything's new. And so I was a little scared, but obviously, made it through and stuck around. And I think it was because even though it was scary, it was challenging, it was different. You and all of the board members were very supportive. And so you guys made it easier to go through everything, to learn all the things that we needed to learn. And you guys were certainly hard on us, but not in a discouraging way or in a way where it made me not want to come back to the next boot camp or to class. So it was definitely scary. But then once we actually started going through the boot camps and doing the research and doing the presentations and started kind of getting some more positive feedback, then I was like, okay, I can do this. I like it. And I really saw the value in sticking around through the whole program. I mean, I really think what it came down for me was like the network that I built, the skills that I learned. So even though I'm not a portfolio manager and I'm not necessarily doing things that I was doing during my time at ASAP, day to day, just being able to join my first job out of college and still feel comfortable that even though I was doing something a little bit different, I understood what was going on. If I heard people in the office talking about certain things, and investment language and stuff, I felt more confident than I think I would have otherwise, because I knew the background, I understood what they were talking about. And then just the confidence that program gives you, like it is something that's hard. It's not something that everybody gets to do. And so I think if you can get through the program, get through the presentations, get through the feedback and the hard parts and the good parts, and you come out of the other side, you realize like, if I did that, then I can do a lot of other things. So for me, I think it was a confidence boost and feeling like there is this whole other world out there in finance that I didn't even know about before. And it gave me the confidence to feel like I still could belong there, even though before I didn't. Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest risk is like in anything is it doesn't work out for whatever reason. But I mean, during my time, I don't think there was anybody that I can think of that decided not to, or it wasn't for them, or they failed or dropped out or anything like that. But all that to say that yes, there is an opportunity cost, right? Which you're going to give up free time. You're going to give up maybe not having as much pressure during, potentially your senior year and whatnot. But I think, honestly, I think those things in the grand scheme of things are not that big of a deal. I think the pros outweigh the cons. And so really the trade-off is you got to put in the work. It's not easy. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be something that not just everybody does, so that when you leave the program, you have that behind you. Like I did something that was, a level up, and I got this different experience that most students don't. So that's really the trade-off, is putting in the work. But like anything in life, you have to do that. So there's nothing you can really do in life successfully without doing the work. Yeah, that's a good question. I think certainly there are certain students that, completely have a different career path in mind, where like this is not anything that they would ever want to do or whatnot. And so in that sense, of course, I'm sure there's a lot of students at the university where this isn't really relevant to them. And even within the business school, right? Like if you want to do marketing and that's what you want to do, maybe it's not where you should spend your time most. But then within finance, I think that that's kind of a misconception maybe that's out there, that you have to do it only if you're super analytical and you want to crunch numbers behind a spreadsheet all day and you want to become a portfolio manager. I think finance, I've learned, is just so broad, and there's so many different things that you can do within the industry. So I don't think that students should try only if they have that one particular path, because my path has been completely different than what the program really was like setting me up to do. And that doesn't mean that I haven't had success, or that I'm not happy, or that I haven't, learned and that I haven't applied anything from the program to my career path. So yeah, I think it's not for everyone, but maybe for more students than you may imagine within the finance or business school. I think really, it sounds maybe cheesy, but it was really the friends that I made and the team of students that I worked with for, almost a year, really. So when I think back of the long, afternoons and nights in our ASAP office, which I know you guys have a much bigger office now, but when I was there, it was a small little closet. And so it was very tight. And all of us were in there working on our research reports, fighting over the computers, having dinner. And I think that's what I think back on. And I think about like the connections that I made both professionally and then as friends. I didn't know anybody before that. It wasn't like my friends and I applied for ASAP. Like, these people were all complete strangers, but we almost ended up like a second family after. So I think back to that. I think back to all the connections I made, and then also with the board members and you. And so definitely the professional connections too. One of the options was always staying where I was, which is Bank of America, and kind of taking the banking route and, that side of finance, if you will. But I had already been there for 5 years, and I had already kind of come to the conclusion I wanted to do something different. And so then when I was applying, I had an offer from Capital Group and then from Warren Street, where I'm at now still. The offers were very similar as far as the roles. They were both kind of entry-level client service type roles. And the offers were very similar. I mean, I think it was very minimal, the difference that I would have made one place versus the other. And so the reason I chose Warren Street was because they were, and we still are, in the grand scheme of things, we're still a small company, but we have grown so much from when I started. So when I started, we were like really, really small. And what attracted me was just the opportunity to learn more, because I knew that working at a smaller place that was growing, I was going to get experience that I wouldn't have otherwise. One thing I remember during my interview process at Capital Group was asking what was my path like beyond that first job that I accepted there. What were my opportunities available to me at that point? And they were very clear and upfront that I had to stay in that position for at least 2 to 3 years with, no real potential for leaving or growth, because they needed these positions filled. So I appreciated the honesty, right? Because that was a big decision maker for me. And knowing that at Warren Street, I would be able to wear many hats, move up quicker, kind of grow with the company. And that's what happened. And now I'm going on 6 years here in like a month and a half. So it's kind of crazy.
It's crazy.
Never would have thought it, but.
So what is your role now? Now you've had several, you've expanded your role all over those years, but what are you doing now, and kind of how did you get to this point?
And I very quickly started taking on other things that maybe are completely unrelated to the role, or you would never think of. So one of the things that I took on very early on was our CRM. We use Salesforce, so all of our CRM administration, and I built out our business processes and workflows from that. So I kind of just quickly, naturally started getting more on the business process side, operations side of things. And so after I think 2.5 years, I was promoted to director of operations, and then we ended up hiring another client service associate. And now I've been director of operations since then, so 3-4 years. But even within the director of operations role, that role has expanded to where, I started with the business processes and kind of leading the client service side of things. And now everything from billing, payroll, HR. Most recently, I've taken on compliance. And so the goal is to eventually take on the chief compliance officer role as well. So it's kind of been this ever, changing, ever growing even within each role, just taking on new things and learning more skills. And so now I have this very kind of broad role that looks over a lot of things, but But yeah, so that's where I'm at now. All the things that are like, payroll, billing, all that stuff obviously was just brand new, and it's just more on like the running of a business kind of side of things. But like I said earlier, just that confidence of understanding what people were talking about. And, if a client had certain questions, I felt like I knew a little bit more than I would have otherwise when talking to them about their accounts and their concerns. And, even though I'm not giving them the financial advice, I felt confident enough to be able to talk to them until they could talk to their advisor and get that assistance. And then just the team, working with a team. I know that in school you always have group projects, but it's completely different working with actual coworkers and colleagues for an extended period of time. Just like it was completely different working with the same 6 students for a whole year as opposed to a semester or a couple months out of a semester. And there were difficult moments. I just mentioned how I look back and I think of the friendships and all this stuff that we did, but it was also difficult. There were also difficult conversations to have with your team members, and we didn't always agree. We didn't always see eye to eye in what we wanted to present to the board and how we wanted to go about things. So I think those skills are just very important in any job, in any field that you take. And I think I really strengthened those skills during my time at ASAP, to where once I did go out into the real world, I had some of that experience with working with the same team of people for a long time, and dealing with that conflict that comes up. And that's something, especially now in the more HR side of things, and as our company continues to grow and we have so many more team members, that's something that I think I apply every day, right? Is like being able to speak to people, understanding them when someone has an issue, being able to hear them out and be compassionate, but also help them with whatever they're going through and whatnot. So in a strange way, yes, I do use a lot of that stuff that I think I learned then. And again, it goes back to maybe not the most analytical role, but there's all these other things you get from the program that are not just, learning about stocks and bonds and what to do with the portfolio. Yeah, I think that if you're contemplating on joining the program or at least applying, and you think that maybe it's not the right fit for you because you don't think you're super smart when it comes to investments, or you're not knowledgeable or whatnot, then don't let that be the reason you don't try it. Because the reality is I think most students go into it very similar, which is maybe we think we know something, and then you get there and you realize you know nothing, and everybody learns together from the bottom. And the professors and the board members and everybody's there to help you learn and grow as you do it. And so even if you think that you don't want to be a portfolio analyst, or you don't want to, necessarily take a job that's this boxed in when you leave Cal State Fullerton, I think you may find there's a lot of value even outside of the investment knowledge that you'll gain. And there's professional connections that you'll make that might change your life. Because if I didn't know you, I wouldn't know Blake, and then I wouldn't, be having this conversation with you 6 years later. So it kind of all does, definitely all ties together. And so there's more to the program than just learning how to pick a stock or a bond. And if you think that it might be for you and you're still worried or whatnot, just give it a shot, because I see very little downside to actually doing the program. Even if you end up taking a job that's very different, like myself, I still think you would find it valuable.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.